Hello, my name is Brandon with RPG Overviews, and in this video I'm going to be taking a look at Eri-Gor, War of the Elements, as you can see here. So it is available in PDF on Drive Thru RPG. I'll have a link down in the description as well as a pinned comment, so you can, if you want to pick it up, you can click on that. It'll take you right over to it. And this is from Felipe Silva. It's from Brazil. It's been translated into English, and I'll be talking a little bit about that. It's quite a lengthy role-playing game, so I'll be doing my best to go through it without making this too terribly long. But let's check it out. So here's the cover here. This nasty dude is fighting this dude, and there's some electricity and War of the Elements, and there's some guys in the background. They're obviously having a big war. So that's already checked out. That works, War of the Elements. And so here we go. You can see here, as we get into the acknowledgments, it says here at the bottom, it says, English is not my primary language. I speak Brazilian Portuguese, but I tried my best to translate this book into English. Besides making more people have access to the game I created over these years, this is another dream I'm accomplishing. If you found any mistakes, feel free to send me an email so I can correct and improve it even more. So that's good. If you would like to find some, I found a couple little issues that I sent to him. He sent me this PDF and I checked it out and I said, yeah, I'll take a look at this and let people know about it. And that's really what this channel is about, is letting people see some, hopefully some, people's dreams come true in getting their careers going when it comes to role-playing games. So I'm hoping that I'm helping a little bit by spreading the word about this game. It may be right up your alley. And you can see here on the summary, the table of contents, all the stuff that's going on with it. And there is a lot. I'll be chatting about that too. Really about when you're making a game, obviously, your goals and aspirations for them, and sometimes how they get so big when you're making it. So here you go here. This is a full role-playing game. When he sent me the PDF, I took a look at it and I said, whoa, this is big. This is going to take me some time to go through. And I did my best, to try to read through it and try to absorb as much as I can. But there's just not enough time for me to sit here and go through it all. But as you can see, there's a lot to it. So you're going to start from the history of Eri-Gor. Now, it's two continents. There to the west is a continent called Eri, and I guess that's how you say it. I'll probably might butcher some stuff in this. In the east is a continent called Gor. So they're surrounded by an ocean called the Great Black Ocean. And so I'm not going to go through the whole history, but this has a lot to do with the elements, with some people in both the different lands, with some gods of elementals, like fire, water, wind, earth, light, darkness, and lightning. And in essence, the battles between these two different continents as well as with these gods. So you've got a pretty lengthy little history here telling you about how this all started. And, as I'm reading through this and I'm like, okay, I can see the page count. There's a lot of work was involved in this. And this is a lot of word count. I mean, it's just a lot going through. And so a lot of time and effort has been spent on this. I can't break down all the different people that are involved in this, but it's a huge power struggle between these different forces. A celestial war takes place. These elemental gods, the battles, as you can see, the battle of the water element, and so on and so forth. And it just keeps going. And you got to give kudos to some of this. We're just writing down, putting the world that you think of down on paper and trying to make it, come alive for people. So then here you have the different chronology here, breaking down the different eras, and then an introduction to the basic system. So how does the system work? Well, it uses up to 3 10-sided dice. So it says, if you look at game dices right there, and you're going to see some translation things that are not exactly what you would probably see by a native speaker, but I never had a problem understanding anything that was trying to be explained to me. Just some words and stuff that here and there, using plurals and things like that don't really jive, but it's fine. It really, he's done a really good job at explaining the system. So and just the world that he's created. So you use up to 3 10-sided dice, both for test rolls and effect rolls. If you are already at the limit of 3d10 and receive a bonus die, the character will receive a +5 bonus to the total roll for an extra die. For example, 5d10 will generate into 3d10 plus 10. So what you're going to be doing is you either have high morale or low morale. And in essence, this is kind of like advantage and disadvantage. Low morale is you're going to choose the two lowest dice. High morale, you will choose the two highest dice. So your normal roll you're going to do is 2d10. If you have high morale, you got 3d10. And low morale, you'll have 3d10, but you've got to choose the lower two. You'll have various resistances in order to, defend against stuff such as defense, fortitude, mind, and spiritual defense. But really, I didn't see that the rules were very complex at all. They're not lightweight by any stretch of the imagination. And the most robust thing about this game is going to be the world that it's trying to explain to you and the huge amount of choices you have for character classes. So here we go with the character generation. So we're going to see a little bit of art here. With the art, I would say that the art is anime inspired. I may not be 100% correct on that. I'm certain people would probably correct me if I'm wrong. But it has kind of a cartoony anime look to it, in my opinion. There is some art all throughout it. Of course, I always wish that there was more. And I always enjoy when whenever someone's telling me about the world that they've created, try to get as much landscape art as possible, just so I can really feel. And it does kind of lack that in some areas, but I understand. This is not a full, big budget, big corporation role-playing games, but the work that's been put into it definitely is. So you're going to have various steps: your race, your class, your deity, your archetype, your abilities, your more characterizations, your distribution and calculations of your characters. So here you can see it here. You're going to do some calculations in order to get certain values, combat statistic values, such as your initiative, your defense, your fortitude, your mind, those resistances I talked about. How you're going to do with combat, your melee aim, ranged aim, unarmed aim, spiritual aim, your karma that you're going to use, hit points, and elemental strength. So there's a lot already kind of going on to it. You're going to have a background here you can choose from: adept or artist, adventurer. And it's going to give you an ability, like it says, effect. So the adept gets the meditation skill. And then examples of life goals. I really like that a lot: to spread the words of the gods, to fight in the name of his god, to persecute the enemies of his god, or to build a temple to his god. So right off the bat, you've got a background, it's going to give you a skill. So a lot of these things are going to add up to creating your character. So here's a lot more: raised by the nature, raised by the dwarves, raised by the elves, so on and so forth. Maybe you were a slave, a farmer, maybe you were a mercenary or a noble, a survivor, or tribal. And then you're going to have qualities and flaws. And they're going to give you abilities in essence. So agile, the character's movements are done with mastery. In game terms, he receives a +1 bonus to dexterity. Maybe you've got a preferred weapon. Maybe you're self-confident. And then you'll have flaws, of course. And it says here, in game terms, the player can acquire up to 3 qualities, and he must choose the same amount of acquired flaws. It's an optional rule, this is. So the player can choose not to get qualities and flaws for this character. But I probably would tell you to do that because flaws are fun, and that's what makes your character unique. Get flaws and get paid for them, in essence, by getting other abilities. And there's occasionally here some examples of how they've made their character. And that's very helpful because I did kind of stumble around a little bit in some sections trying to make a character kind of in my mind. That's kind of what I do when I'm reading some of this stuff. So you've got some evolution, it says here: experience, your character level, rules for evolved characters. You get rewards at certain levels, such as an acquire an ability, or an increase in a combat, or an acquire ability, so on and so forth. You can see that on the table. You've got renown. It's pretty much the fame of your characters or clan in relationship to the citizens or the gods, things like that. And then you've got your different races. And again, you can see this art. I consider it to be slightly, anime kind of in look, but I'm not sure. So you got the first dwarves, the first centaurs, the elves, the gnomes, vampires, and then there's some special races as well: moon elves, lycanthropes, half celestials, and it's going to break them down like this. So you've got the dwarves, and it's going to have their aptitude, receives high morale on the size or spirit test. They've got night vision, and they have a surge ability. So you've got your background, you've got these other things. Maybe you've got some things that are going to help you, the qualities and the flaw, and hinder you, like the flaws. And then you're going to get some stuff from your race: elf, gnome, human, moon elf, lycanthrope, half celestial, and half abyssal. And then vampire, always a favorite. And then you're going to have some some fiction to read. And there's a good bit of fiction throughout the whole book, which I was very surprised by. And I will say that it's a good thing, and I also see a bit of a negative, and I'll talk about that when I get to the section. But the fiction is all good. It's very, it's not so much, especially when talking about the history of the world, it's very much just telling you things like this thing happened, that thing happened. So it's very easy to read to understand the history of the world, but there is a lot of fiction throughout it. And you've got the classes, and whoa, Nelly, this is a bunch. You've got archetypes at first, okay? And it's going to be, it talks about a little bit how they're kind of like support, tank, or damage specialists in our gaming universe. So it's a way to kind of give your character a role, the aggressor or a commander. And it's going to give you abilities, maybe bonus or support abilities. Like the commander, the order, once per round, the character can grant an extra action to an ally. So that's pretty cool. You're going to pick a couple of those. You've got conductor, judge, manipulator, mimic, protector, tactician, and utilitarian. And then you've got the rules for abilities, kind of breaking them down and explaining how they work in their certain formats of their basic attacks, if they're an attack, a bonus, a support, or a movement ability. And then some more stuff here, obviously. And then it's going to, this section is huge. And this is really where it's kind of like kitchen sink character creation. You're going to really spend some time, I think, and have to make some tough choices. So you need to go into this with already like what type of character you want to make. Very much kind of like White Wolf, like vampire or something. I want to make a character that's like this. Go find it instead of just reading all this, because there are a lot of abilities. And I can't go through all of them, of course, but I'll go through as much as I can when it comes to these classes. So you have an Amazon, and then you have all these different abilities you can choose. Now, you're going to be able to choose. You're not going to be able to get all of them. You're going to be able to get a couple of them in the beginning. I think it might even be one of them, but you'll be able to get some more, obviously, as you level up. So there's a bunch of choices here. Very much a kitchen sink type approach to characters. So here's some more fiction. The first archer. So you've got the archer here with all their abilities. Again, more fiction for that. The Avenger. And it's got your whole gambit of classes. I don't think there's anything in here that I saw that it's missing. A bard, a blood hunter. They possess the powerful or bizarre ability to manipulate blood. You've got the brawler. You've got the cartomancer. They deal with uncertainty and time and luck. So you've got these decks of fate here. You've got the controller. They can manipulate the life forces of animals and monsters to gain special powers. If you like a game that just gives you tons of options when it comes to fantasy classes, this game has definitely got you where you want to be. The Desert Warrior. You've got the Dragon Warrior. The Duelist. The Elemental Warrior. Holy Warrior. The Inventor, which is interesting. I can see a gnome playing that class. Some more fiction here. The Mage. Some different books that they get from their abilities, the Book of the Mind, Book of Nature, Book of Blood, so on and so forth. Some mage specializations that they can get as well. So obviously magic's a big deal. So this character class is quite lengthy. You've got the Nature Warrior. You've got the Necromancer, always a fan favorite. Some more fiction here. A Pirate, Psionic. I mean, Runic Knight, we're still going here. So, I mean, this has got you covered. Serpent Warrior, that's different. The Shadow Warrior, Spiritual Warrior, Swordsman, some more fiction, Time Warrior, a Normal Warrior, and then there's some specializations that you can do. Divine specializations, and then special ones for the different type of class, the classes that you have, so you can kind of specialize in these different abilities. And then we're going to have talents. So talents are abilities that all classes can acquire. And these are just going to be kind of, not generic, but overall ones, like it says. All classes can get these talents. And then you're going to go into the 7 gods. A whole section here about the different gods, the elements. You can see talking about the corruption, again, building up that world, the god powers that be, some more fiction, and it's going to go into each one of the different gods: the god of fire, the god of water, wind, earth, light, darkness, of course, and lightning. Then you've got, it says equipments, but it should be equipment. And I let him know about that. He's going to get those changes fixed. So you're going to have different types of durability based off what the item is. There's an optional rule of constant loss of durability, and then all your normal weapons and stuff like that, what damage they do and how they affect your speed. So this is all really well normal and fleshed out. Armor takes away from damage. You've got normal kind of adventure items and kits, food, a whole bunch of stuff there, a bunch of different runes, and as you can see here, enchantments that you can put onto, it says they're small, usually circular gems that carry some of the powers of the ancient elemental gods, and they can be put into equipment. So that's pretty cool. And there's a lot of them. There's item creation rules for alchemy as well, cooking or arms and shields. There's a legendary items here, blessed items, artifacts, cursed items, really thorough in this game. Miscellaneous magical items. And I do like the fact that all these are kind of put in the equipment section. Some people might not like that, but at least you know once you hit it that this is where all the equipment's going to be, whether it be mundane or magical, as you have this section here. And again, as I go on, boots and bracelets and gloves, banners, shields and armor. And then it's going to go into the rules, the union system rules about the 2d10 and about the different attributes. And you're going to have size, dexterity, intellect, and spirit. And then you can make different tests with those attributes. You can see here the degree of difficulty is going to be normal, it's going to be a 10. So in essence, you're looking at a DC system, but you're using 2d10. And you're going to have this thing where you get high morale and low morale, like I spoke about before. And that's going to help you because it's called the effort rule. So in essence, it says the player gets a total of 9 on the test. They needed a 10. It was close, but the character couldn't pass. The effort rule comes into play. Should he choose to use the rule, the player will re-roll the failed test. However, due to the urgency and maximum effort used, the test will be rolled with high morale. If he gets a success, the test is successful. If he fails, the character will receive the exhausted condition. You can only use the rule once per test made, and it is not possible to undo a critical failure. In addition, some abilities or effects may give bonuses or penalties on the effort roll, and they definitely do when I read them. So you can get tests with help, and a lot of times it'll explain the different skills and stuff, but it'll explain about whenever you are exhausted. So here are the different skill tests that you will have to make in the game, as you can see. And then another example in the game of saving an ally. You've got rules here for combat. You're going to roll initiative. You get to make 2 actions per turn. And so you could play a rule, there's realistic mode and heroic mode. Realistic mode, you cannot make the same action more than once during a round, and heroic mode just hand waves that and says, no, you can do it as much as you want. So there's rules for movement, obviously, different tests for attacks. You're going to roll 2d10 and add the result of the roll to the combat total according to the type of the ability. And then you're going to see if it is equal to or greater than the difficulty of the ability, one of the 4 resistances. So fairly easy to understand. You've got battle effort, which is kind of the same thing I talked about before. If he fails, the character will receive the exhausted condition, but you can roll again, in essence, with high morale. So pretty much you're penalized with exhaustion should you try to do that effort. So rules for targeted attacks, critical hits and misses, everything you see here that you normally see in a game, they're all here. You've got heroic actions that you can do, dealing damage, absorbing damage. There's energies, and then end of combat you can see here. You can kind of change some stuff up with the battle at the end. Here's the combat conditions. Exhausted, cannot use the effort rule. So once you're exhausted, you can't use that ability to try to go for it again. And then here it's explaining high morale and low morale, very important. Some rules for miniatures and combat maps, saving an ally, an example of that. And then talking about a module, and then rules for tactile modules. Can't speak right now. Here's a whole section on wars, which I was impressed by, as you have everything you need to do since it is called the War of the Elements. Rules for massive battles. So that's something that's often overlooked in games, and people ask for it. Well, here it is. So they definitely covered that. So that's impressive. I'm not going to get too much into it. War machines and ships and whatnot, abilities for troops. And then an example of a war, which of course is very helpful. And then we're going to get into more of the world, the society and culture, clans and guilds, laws and justice, wealth and living, religion, and things like that, how the time works. And so you're going to then break into the world of Eri-Gor, so the two different continents. And I'm going to kind of zip through there. There's the map. This dotted kind of line splits up Eri-Gor from the west and the east. And then you're going to break down the kingdoms of Eri and the kingdoms of Gor into their different areas. One thing I definitely liked is that it shows the military power of each area, each different kind of kingdom here with its defensive power, its war power, and its army, how many troops it has, should you want to embrace that whole war rules. Kingdom of the Gods, you've got a whole bunch of different places here, different forests and kingdoms and ruins, everything like that. But the thing I want to get to as I start scrolling through, as you can see, it's quite lengthy, get a little bit of fiction here, is Gor, the world of eternal night. The world of Gor can be considered the opposite of Eri when analyzed in a basic way. This thought is prevalent in the minds of most ordinary citizens. To them, anything that is not good can only be evil. So its essence, it's kind of like a world of darkness. But not everybody there is, of course, dark, evil or whatever. So this is where the gods are, the different gods that I showed you earlier. So as in Eri, each day consists of 24 hours. First 12 in Gor with the moon facing west, and then the remaining 12 with the moon facing east, since it's always night on Gor. And I think that's an interesting thing to have a whole continent that's always on it at nighttime in some degree. So it's a place kind of horrors and darkness, obviously, barbarians. And you are trying to, the way it's written is you are from Eri, and you're trying to, of course, push back against the continent of Gor. We've got more fiction here, more stuff about the world and the history of it. Sardoth, who plays a major role as kind of a shithead in the world, the different eras, and then monsters and combatants. So rules for them, different archetypes. I like this: enemies and items, enemies and the elements. Rules for creating unique monsters. That's good. How they're laid out, how their different stat blocks are, their different talents they may have. They battle surge whenever they go down to half hit points. They can get these different abilities, or they can get you kind of unique ones, a special effect according to its class. So they're broken up into class. So like this, abyssal. So now this is where I'll say, and this is not exactly the same part of it. So there's a lot of stuff fluffing up the world and the fiction, and there's a lot of monsters in this book. I would have just liked to have seen, if we're going for a big book, you might as well just go ahead and give a little bit more description of how these creatures, what they are like, what they look like, what their behaviors like, what their society might be like, because I found that a little lacking. So you've got a lot of human type characters here, some turds you're going to have to fight or go up against, barbarians, and like we've got goblins. They're going to explain some stuff, how they are, if they're from a different area. So it does explain like how orcs are and pirates and stuff like that. But then these beasts, it does, I just would like to have a little bit more. So it says birdmen are creatures with human body and the head, wings of a bird, usually eagles or hawks. They live in mountainous regions, usually in packs. So it can have a little bit more about how they are about the world. Does somebody use them as shock troops, or how do they treat people that go by, or it's some of the things I think could be just a little bit bigger, just to give us a little bit more information about what they are, because some of these things people might not exactly know, but there are descriptions of them. I just want a little bit more. That's all. As you can see, there's a bunch of them. The stat blocks are not too bad at all, other than the abilities that the creatures have. So you've got a whole thing on constructs here. You've got dragons, of course. So like you've got green adult dragon. It's got its breath, but like, where do they live? Are they different than red dragons? Of course, I'm always kind of thinking of D&D type. Do they have, are they more about this or about that than a red dragon or a brown dragon, or whatever the case may be? So just trying to make them a little bit more unique in their description. So elementals, the fauna, good art. I mean, some of this art I really like. I think it's pretty cool. And then you've got insects. So it really covers everything you need monster-wise. Undead. It says skeleton, but it doesn't say anything really more. It's kind of hand waves some stuff. Plants. There's some more fiction there. And then a whole section here, since they've told you about the history of Eri-Gor, it's going to tell you about heroes, legendary heroes, all about them, big ones that played big parts in the War of the Elements here. And this is quite a lengthy section, and again, I give kudos to it. Really flesh this place out. And you can tell it's a thing where someone has thought up of a world, and they've just really tried to explain it the best they can, and they've put it into the book, obviously. As you can see, a lot more fiction, which is always good. Hopefully people will read it. And then you're going to have your character sheet here. Pretty decent character sheet, laid out pretty normal, not too much craziness. Again, it says equipments, but that's all right. You've got your different areas there for accessories. I always like that, seeing different places where items are. And then, of course, you're going to get so many abilities in this game. And that may be something that's hard to keep up with. So there it is. Welcome to the world of Eri-Gor. Fantastic world where elemental gods attempt to control and maintain order within society. A lot is embroidered in a war that will change the future. In Eri, the generals now in charge after the corruption of the king Dagomor try by all means to find peace. In Gor, the armies of orcs and the berserkers march towards their enemies. You will be one of the heroes responsible for helping the population and protecting the capital, Gainvale, I guess that's how you say it. To help you in your task, 10 races and 26 classes will be available to you. Numerous items and abilities can be added to your war arsenal. So join Eri's army against Gor. Pick up your sword and shield, staff or bow, and let karma continue to rule through your actions. So that is Eri-Gor. I know this has been lengthy, but it's a long book. I was really surprised by it. And this is obviously someone that's got a world that they've thought of, and they've really put it down on paper for you. If you like classes and have a lot of abilities and choices, this thing's covered all the way. You're probably going to have some decision paralysis when making your character, trying to figure out exactly what they're going to be like and what you want them to do. But it's got the bases, it's got the skeletal structure for a good world that's interesting, with the different Eri-Gor and how they're different amongst them physically, and then the people and stuff like that. Really, it's a much bigger game than I thought it would be. It might be a bigger game than I would probably be used to now. I've played so many kind of smaller games to get new, but it's got its own kind of system, and it uses a little bit of that advantage and disadvantage. But if you like classes and you like a real fleshed out fantasy world, this has got it going for you. Like I said, it's not too expensive on DriveThruRPG. It is only available in PDF. But if you like this video, please hit like. Let me know that you're out there. Share it with your friends. I appreciate everybody that's joined the channel. It's been a lot lately, and I really appreciate that. But check out this game, Eri-Gor. There's also like a free version and like a campaign guide that's available on DriveThruRPG. So check those out to get some more information if you need it before you pull the trigger on this game. But yeah, it's a big game, obviously with a big vision about their world. And I hope you've liked this video. Thanks.